You know what's crazy? I finished red today, but I actually feel good about my trades. And I know that's a little bit contradictory, but given the past couple of really the past 2 weeks have been pretty bad for me, I'm a little excited and actually motivated by my trades that I took today. And we'll go over those right now. So, my first trade, I got stopped out on what I thought was a pretty decent trade for about $212. And then I made back $137. I did have a third trade, but this was me chasing at the end of the day. And the second I got into the trade, I realized you're being dumb, and I got out. So no harm, no foul on that one, but we'll ignore that one, and we'll get right into this here. The It may be easier to do this. So a couple of things. I'm still thinking, I was pretty bullish still for the most part. I want to kind of zoom out to, I guess the 5 minute will be pretty good. Actually, let's do 15 minutes. What I was looking at here was kind of the trading range that we had been in. And let me hide the studies real quick. So I'm looking at this trading range that we had been trading in for a while, basically between 41, and all the way down here to 4100. We had been in this range for quite some time, and as we approached that level today, this was yesterday's high of day, and we had kind of danced around it in pre-market. We had basically rejected off of it in the beginning of the day, and so what I was viewing, things looked pretty bullish for me. I was thinking, excuse the chart while it's getting things figured out. So I'm thinking, we had a little bit of chop in the AM, and there wasn't a lot of continuation, but what I was expecting was still a bullish move, right? So in the morning, I was keeping an eye on the overnight low, and I didn't think we were going to be moving past it. But what I was expecting was a bit of a liquidity grab. So my thought process is I was going to go long off of the bounce of this area, so around 41.32. And I was patient around these kind of swing lows here. And what ended up happening was I got long on this candle right here. So I kind of waited for a liquidity grab here because it's kind of what I was expecting, since maybe a lot of longs were accumulating here. People were setting their stop losses maybe at 41.32 or around. So long stop loss accumulation here and here. And on this one, I waited till it grabbed, and then I actually got long here, and I was targeting yesterday's high of day at 41.41. And I actually set my stop loss to, I want to say 41.29. Unfortunately, it was the timing that was incorrect. So I guess the general idea of the trade idea was correct. And instead of me thinking they had already taken sweep the liquidity here, it ended up getting swept here, and I was a part of that liquidity. So I guess the trade idea was right and correct, but the timing was incorrect. And I guess maybe I could have checked Bookmap, maybe realized that these large wicks weren't, great, gotten out a little bit earlier. And I think the second mistake after that was I didn't get in the rest of the afternoon. I was pretty upset. I was upset with myself to the point, but I also recognized that I think I still had a rough idea, and I was still correct on my trade idea. So I wasn't too upset with myself, even though I did get stopped out. So maybe I could be a little bit better with my stops. I mean, I could have had a slightly riskier stop, and that would have prevented me getting stopped out. But timing is the big one on this one. Maybe not having supply and demand levels set. So maybe this was a large area for supply and demand. A lot of stop orders down here. Who knows? The rest of the afternoon, I didn't trade. I went to the gym, kind of just did some other things. And I didn't really make any trades. I mean, all of these, what looks to be, swing lows, it steadily went up the rest of the afternoon. and not much happened on my part. I didn't trade. I mean, any one of these, new swing lows, I could have been an opportunity for me to get long, but I just didn't participate. And I did end up participating before this ridiculous sell-off at the end of the day, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I did end up participating around, let's see here, right about here. So what time is this? I can't do it. 3 o'clock, 3:07. What I was looking at, I was keeping an eye, number one, on this trend line. I didn't factor in the trend line too heavily. I just had it there just because I was keeping an eye on all of the swing lows, right? Making sure that the trend line was continuing. None of the swing lows had been breached or anything of the sort. And I was keeping an eye on this one here. So the overnight high was a big level for me. This was after yesterday's high of day. This would have been another target for me. And so I'm keeping an eye right here at 41.45 as the previous swing low. And we're hanging around here. And I was actually thinking to myself around this time, so like 250, what would I normally do? What would I do in these trades? How would I handle it? And my thought process was I would probably have previously gotten long here. Or maybe let's just say for the sake, I probably would have gotten long here right before this thing turned around. I would have had a long entry, set my stop loss right here, and then I would have been a part of the liquidity. That's what I would have done. I mean, even just yesterday. So don't think this is too far away, but I would have done this yesterday. But I changed things up today, and I was highly focusing on the swing lows, especially in this uptrend. I wanted to base my trade off of a larger pullback and making sure that this pullback does not breach this swing low at 41.45. And I was thinking, like, I don't think this is close enough to this swing low, to this level right here, 41.45. And I was right. I had patience. It paid off. And this large candle, we got real close. Ended up being at like 41.45.75 or something along there. When that candle finished, I got long, I think, on the very next candle. And I set my stop right below this swing low. So that was, I don't know if that's proper or, whatever. I did set my stop loss at like 41.45 basically. That was my stop loss. I got long here, and I actually held through most of this. I kept holding, and then up at about here, I was actually expecting a little bit more continuation. I think I was up about $200 on this trade at this point. And then this very next candle is where I got out. So right at about probably 41.50 is where I got out, just because, after what happened yesterday and giving back $500, I needed to take some profits. And this is where I made back $137 and cut my total loss down to $75 for the day. So I think execution-wise, like this trade right here, yeah, it was short, and yes, I was longing right before this huge sell-off in the afternoon, but I think I executed properly and waited for the proper entry, right? In past, I mean, even just yesterday, I would have gotten long and set my stop loss here. So I'm looking for things that the old version, the 24 hours ago Mick, would have gotten in and gotten my stops taken almost immediately on this trade. So I'm super excited that this happened. I'm super excited that, yes, my first trade didn't work out and I lost $200, but what it showed me was that I can actually still look at the markets. I can have a higher time frame look. I can set some levels. I can set some supply and demand zones, and I can still actually have a plan that ends up working out. It's just a matter of, if the plan doesn't work out exactly in my favor, how can I adapt intraday to still take advantage of that? Because again, I didn't trade pretty much the entire afternoon after that first loss. And so I missed several opportunities to get long, which were in hindsight pretty clean, after this original reversal here. possible clean entry at one of these two places, clean entry here, clean entry here, clean entry here. So it's just a matter of, I guess, learning to adapt intraday from like your original plans, seeing how things work. And yeah, so again, today was pretty motivating. But the third and final trade that ended up just breaking even was I was chasing down here. So this huge sell off. I didn't, the first like half of it, I didn't want to touch it. I didn't trust it. I didn't feel safe because the whole day we had been slowly grinding up and then just absolute plummet sell off here. So didn't want to touch it. And then finally, like down here, I felt like I was, fear of missing out. And I was like, man, I just, I want to get in on this, maybe I can, and I could feel the psychological thoughts of, you're down $75. Let's see if we can get to positive or we can have a green day. So like I felt the psychological greed kind of creeping in my head, and I entered the trade and it started to stall a little bit. So instead of continuously selling off, it started to stall. And it was a brief moment during that stalling where I said, like, what the absolute am I doing right now? And I got out of my trade immediately, break even, and I turned everything off. I said, I'm done for today. Like, I need to learn to accept, especially after the previous trade, which I thought went pretty well, all things considered. So yeah, being able to just put everything down and stop and actually take two trades today. Yes, one worked, one didn't. But two trades that I'm kind of proud of, especially considering the past 2 weeks. You can look at the past 2 weeks that I've had trading, and it's not great. But I'm happy at the end of the day. This is motivating for me that I can still understand roughly the markets. It's just a matter of being able to integrate my pre-market plans, my analysis, and integrating that analysis intraday with as things kind of show up and change and adapt. So that seems kind of like something that's going to be built over time, over years as I do this process. So I can't expect things to happen overnight. But today, Tuesday, April 11th, lost $75, but this is probably the most motivated I've been in the past couple of weeks. So that's all I have. Till next time, peace.